All right, guys. So we are back running a little bit later than what I anticipated. I apologize. But we are back now for PM session, for the PM session of James Crumbley trial. We'll get caught up with the breaks and everything. I am going to go mobile for a minute. There's a few things I'm working on that have to do with my dad's memorial that I got caught up in and realized, oh my God, it's 1:30. The case is back on. So I'm going to be listening from mobile for a little bit. I'll jump back on in a minute to be watching live with you, talk throughout the breaks. But we're going to jump in here and get back in the courtroom. Also, note tonight on Justice Watch Live, if I go live, I think I'm going to try to do it again. We are going to be watching the John DeLee sentencing. I had forgotten that was coming up. That's going to be going on in about a minute. The John DeLee is a case close to home for me because it was my second case I ever covered. It was before I was doing like the daily, but I put together a whole video breaking down why he should have the verdict should have been different for him, and you can check that out. But we're going to watch his sentencing tonight because I'm curious. I'll be curious to see what sentence he ends up getting. But that was my my second trial that I ever covered on here, featured or discussed on the channel. So kind of going back to we watched a couple of days. I think we had a couple of live days on there, but it wasn't continuous. But anyways, we're going to jump into the courtroom now and get started with the day. Also, guys, if you're out there and you're wanting to, become an official Justice Watch member, I have simplified the membership. I made an announcement. When I first came out, I thought, I filled in every single blank. And I thought, well, you know what? I wanted to simplify it, finally simplified it into one tier. And that one tier gets you everything. And that's what I kind of want it to be. I want it to be simple, want it to be nice. So if you're interested in becoming a Justice Watch member, there is a link in the description. Click that link, become the first member today. We're going to have member only chats, member only videos. You're going to get first release, all these different various things. You're going to get emojis and different things that you're going to be able to have that will signify and make you stand out as hopefully the chat gets more crowded and you can stand out and let people know you're a day one supporter. But anyways, just want to throw that in there. Let's jump into the courtroom, get started, and get caught up on what's going on.
Thank you, Marquise, on behalf of people.
Karen McDonald on behalf of people.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Mario Lehman on behalf of James Crumbley, who is standing to my left.
Ready for the jury?
Yes, sir.
Who's the next witness?
Yeah, you told me that yesterday.
Detective Joe Bryan.
There's a button on how about it. Don't you go in here? Well, that's the light.
All right, for the jury.
You may be seated. Next witness, question.
Detective Sergeant Joe Bryan, Judge.
Would you raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is a true self of God?
I do, Your Honor.
Please step up and have a seat. And could you state your name for the record and spell your first and last name, please?
Joe Bryan, Joebrian.
Go ahead.
Sir, where do you work?
Yoakum County Sheriff's Office,
And how long have you worked with the Sheriff's Office?
29 years.
Okay. So tell me, sir, what do you currently do there?
I'm assigned to the Special Investigations Unit as a detective sergeant.
And what does the Special Investigation Unit in the Sheriff's Office do?
We handle major crimes, internal affairs, officer-involved shootings, anything major, we usually have our hands into it.
Okay. And that's run by Lieutenant Timothy Willis at the
Yes.
constable here?
Yes, sir.
How long have you been assigned to the Special Investigative Unit?
Since 2011.
And prior to that, where did you work?
I was the detective sergeant in charge of our computer crimes unit for almost 8 years. Prior to that, worked at the jail, the road, general investigations on the road.
Okay. So all told, you said 29 years of law enforcement experience?
Yes, sir.
Sir, let's direct your attention to November the 30th of 2021. Do you recall that day?
I do.
Were you working that day?
I was.
Were you made aware of the shooting at Oxford High School?
I was.
Do you recall how you were made aware of that?
My supervisor, Lieutenant Willis, called me on the phone.
And did you respond to the school?
Eventually, I was heading that way, then I got diverted.
And tell me what happened.
Lieutenant Willis called me and asked if I could go to the Oxford substation to attempt some interviews.
Okay. And we say attempt some interviews. Interviews of who?
The shooter, the responsible.
Okay, so the shooter was arrested at the Oxford High School on November the 30th and taken to where?
The Oxford substation.
Okay, so we say substation, so the sheriff's office being a rather large organization, there's different police stations of the sheriff's office within Oakland County?
Correct. Every township that contracts with us, we have a substation, like a mini police station at each contracted area, each township.
Okay, and when you say Oxford substation, that's what we're referring to?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you were made aware that the shooter was transported to that location?
Correct.
And you were sent there to do what?
Attempt to interview him.
Okay. And did you speak with the shooter?
I did.
Okay. Did you learn his parents' identities?
I did.
Okay. And what did you do with that information?
I called his dad
Okay.
and asked him to respond to the substation to talk to them.
Is his dad in court today?
Yes.
Can you point to him and describe something he's wearing today?
And he's sitting at the defense table and he has the headphones with a little white mouse on.
You got a reflected identification?
The record will reflect the in-court identification of the defendant.
Okay, so we had testimony from Edward Wogrowski regarding location data earlier today and yesterday that showed that James Crumbley arrived at the substation about 1:58 p.m. on November the 30th. Is that consistent with your memory?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now tell us please what happened after, what did James Crumbley arrive, did Jennifer Crumbley arrive as well?
Yes, they both arrived together.
Okay, and tell us what happened after they arrived.
My partner and I, Rob Miller, took him into an interview room to let him know what was going on.
Okay. And in the Oxford substation, when you took them to an interview room, is this room equipped with audio and visual recording?
Yes, it was.
Okay, and was that equipment operational on November the 30th?
It was.
Okay, and was that conversation between yourself, the defendant, and his wife, is that captured on audio and visual recording?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you've seen that recording before?
I have.
And that fairly depicts that conversation?
It does.
Judge, this is Exhibit 301. I believe we do not have an objection to this, but is that correct?
Correct, no objection, Your Honor.
Real ones of them, yes.
May I publish to the jury, Judge?
Sure.
So as we wait for the...
You know if we need the sound adjusted.
Thank you, Judge. Before I press play, the top right corner of the screen here reflects 14:58. The time is actually 13:58. Would that be correct?
That's correct.
And is that because of daylight savings?
I'm assuming.
Okay. So the actual time this begins is 1:58 p.m. on November the 30th.
That's correct.
So before you start, just identify everybody who you see here.
I got my back with a bald head and a blue shirt. To my left is my partner, now retired Sergeant Rob Miller. One standing is James Crumbley, and the woman is Jennifer Crumbley, his wife.
Okay.
We have Ethan with us. Obviously, we don't know all that happened yet, because everything's still ongoing. It's our understanding he wasn't involved in a school shooting. He was the one who did everything. He said he acted alone. That's basically the only thing we've asked him so far, because we're just worried about other students, other people involved in this. I'll get some questions from you, or ask you some questions first for you, Yes, super dry, very, I've heard yeah, we do not know. There are several people who've been shot. This is my partner gets back. We'll get into it a little bit. But we really need to talk to him. Of course, we can do that without you guys.
We were just there this morning.
That's what I understand. But we'll talk about that.
You've never done any of that.
Jennifer, what is your date of birth? Last name is also Crumbley. And James, what is your date of birth? Thank you.
Gonna pause it for a second, just for where it was redacted because personal information was being discussed.
That's correct.
Okay. Personal identifying information.
Yes, sir.
We're coming in very early, but I understand there was an issue just recently with him. This morning. What went down this morning? Well, he was writing, yes, serving the picture. He was doodling on a test. Or a practice test.
Do you think you should probably have a lawyer?
That's up to you.
I think we probably should have a lawyer.
I think we can speak
I know.
to the cops. And
It just,
we'll answer all their queries. And here's our perspective right now. This thing is still very, very fresh.
right?
All right, people are still on their way to the hospital and such. We need to know what his state of mind is. Is there explosive devices anywhere? Is there other guns anywhere? Did he hide guns, ammunition, explosive devices? Are there any other victims? We need to know these things quite rapidly. I was in town. I saw all you guys go to, I don't care about it. When I see five, I said, okay, concerned. I headed to the high school, obviously couldn't get to the high school, turned into the Meyer parking lot, and I saw these kids standing outside. I'm trying to call my son, make sure he's okay, and
He texted me and he loved me.
he texted you that. And I said that there was an active shooter.
35 minutes before he called me, I was
freaked out
I went
because
down
of
to the school.
the situation.
He was drawing that on the paper and the counselor called it down.
So really, you can't make a figure.
I don't know.
What did the text say?
That was texted to me
Oh.
from the counselor. I texted Ethan at 12:21, you okay? He said, yeah, just got back from lunch. I said, you know, you can talk to us, we won't judge. He said, I know, thank you, I'm sorry for that, I love you. I said, I love you too. And then, you okay? And hear back. And then, he told me about what's going on, and I freaked out when I drove here from work. And that's where we're at.
What kind of text came?
That was at 12:21, and he was just getting back from lunch.
But you guys had a meeting with the counselor this morning,
Yeah.
little?
Yeah.
I said, quick answers. What, was it the first hour, second one, what time was it?
I got to school at 10:30, not whatever.
So it would have been earlier, first or second hour, I don't know.
And what did he say?
I mean, he just said he was sorry, he just said, you know,
Did he have any issues, like being picked on?
No.
Or?
No.
I did not, that we know of. His best friend, his parents just sent him somewhere to Wisconsin for an OCD rehabilitation. That was his only friend that he had. They hung out all the time, hung out at school. Our dog, our Great Pyrenees, she passed away a couple months ago. My mom died back in April. So that's
So you got all the structures going on.
They didn't.
And of course, I screwed up. They say, you guys go over this with them, like, what is that with the holes? Anybody ask them, what the?
No, the counselor just.
The counselor just said, you know, there's no,
Honestly, I didn't even like think about that, but.
I mean, it's Ethan, like, Ethan's like, he's a perfect kid, like, he doesn't do anything, he doesn't get in trouble at school, he doesn't, like,
Is that how?
As you're gonna, what kind of,
it's a safe story, man.
where's it gonna happen?
It was hidden in in the case. And the bullets were hidden in a completely different spot. Underneath some jeans. I raced home. Found the guy that's under.
You saw the cops.
After I saw the cops, after I found I was an active shooter, after what went on this morning, I immediately raced home and found the gun in his hand. That's when I called you guys. I called you guys right away and let you know.
Where, how far away is your guys' house from the high school?
Take right.
You live on the street.
I don't know where that's.
If he walks, between my
You
front
walk to school.
it's really right in the village.
So what we'd like to do, is talk to your son. And obviously you mentioned our lawyer. He is totally entitled to one. That's gonna be all up to you guys with his age.
We would like.
I'm not doing Andy right now.
Okay.
Andy, hear me?
Okay. Can Andy handle?
Andy can get me something.
We would like a lawyer present
Before we have any questions.
from here on out. Okay. And there's no disrespect to you guys. I mean, it's just, I don't want to hear on this one. I only see this stuff on TV.
At school?
All I know is I was talking to the counselor about that, he texted me, and we went down there, and that was, that's all it's about. And he didn't seem worried about it, and he said he was more welcome to stay at school, or he could go home, and I really wish we
Would it take
could
more?
go home.
Is this, or is that?
We need help here.
For the time being, then he's been arrested, he's maybe go to, either jail or children's village for a short time. So we're going to talk to him, so, that's where we're at.
Any medical conditions, any mental conditions we need to be aware of?
He's got to get somebody before it's out, and maybe there's something he's
Do you have any meds or anything like that that you have at home that you might need to bring through? No meds, no, is there no treatment for mental health, anything like that?
Give me 1 second, I know we have some time tomorrow, because there's a lot of stuff we have to ask them, as far as just height, weight, and all that kind of stuff, and one of you guys can go with us.
Alright.
Yeah, no problem. Alright, so give me 1 minute to go to the form, I'll do that.
Here. Oh, yeah. Pretty sure so, the same. Any trouble with him with the law or anything?
Nothing.
Everybody's suspended?
Nothing.
Nothing.
He's not even.
He's great. I mean, mediocre grades. I mean, they're up and down, you know. But
He's not. I found out getting Ian geometry last night, and I got
it's not a grade. We were talking to him about his grade.
I got on to him last night.
I'm sorry, his what?
His grade,
Grades. Okay.
he was feeling me honest with you. And I got into him. And I was like, oh, this.
Actually, you know that he's gonna be safe, okay? He's not hurt at all. I think it's gonna get worse for us, but at this point right now, it's all pretty fresh. We don't know. Say how many people are hurt, anybody's died, we don't know. At this point. Do you have any other children? Family members we should check in, and family members that may be concerned about, was he angry at any family members that you want to hurt?
We have a family that live here. Well, I mean, she's got an aunt and uncle that live here. He was just fine. He's going to school. He apologized about last night. We talked about his grades. Told him, like, listen, we just want you to drop it. They should have, uncompleted assignments. That's all we want to do.
It's not great. And on social media, you know,
Not Facebook, Instagram.
you get something.
No.
They were empty, the gun was empty, and the bullets were in a completely different place.
How many rounds did you have?
100.
No. You guys bought them everything you went to the
He
shooting.
bought 200.
I thought it was just a box of them.
Oh, I don't know.
No, you didn't.
I don't remember.
He didn't.
I don't remember what it
It
was.
wasn't an exorbitant amount of money, because you would have held.
Approximately $56.
Okay, then he only bought 100 rounds. And so you guys spent 50. So, yeah, we go to the shooting range all the time.
He goes with you, so you know.
Yes. I've been trying to teach him safety. Yeah, I mean,
It was a hobby that they did together, sure. Still not gonna leave anything on there.
He's a juvenile, they won't do that.
Hmm?
I mean, they will not. He's a juvenile, they won't release his one.
Could I try calling him and tell him those emergencies tomorrow right now? I don't.
He told you that he had been in town, correct?
Yes,
That he saw the police cars?
Yes.
Many police cars. That he tried to get to the high school,
correct,
that he couldn't get there.
correct,
That he went to the Meyer and saw all the students.
yes,
And that he was trying to get a hold of his son.
yes,
And he specifically said he was trying to get a hold of his son to see if his son was okay.
correct,
He then at some point told his wife about what happened at the school, the shooting that happened at the school.
yes,
At about 5 minutes and 18 seconds of the interview, James was very clear that they didn't have issues with their son.
yes.
That he didn't believe that they had been having issues with their son. Is that fair to
That's what he
say?
said, yes, ma'am.
He talked about the fact that his friend had been sent away.
Yes,
And let me clarify. James talked about the fact that his son's friend had been sent away.
yes, I know what you're saying.
Okay. And that their dog died.
Yes,
James's mother passed away that April.
yes,
At 6 minutes and 24 seconds, you were looking at the math homework on Jennifer Crumbley's phone, and I believe it was you that said, did anyone ask him about this?
I believe the specifically the bullet holes.
Correct.
That's what you're referring to?
Yes, I am.
Yes.
And I was going to say that. And I was going to say
Oh.
specifically the bullet holes, or what appear to be bullet holes, on the figure that's drawn on the math homework.
Yes, ma'am.
And Jennifer responded no.
Right.
And then she kind of talked about the counselor, and there was a brief discussion about the counselor, and you wouldn't know what happened with the counselor, correct?
I do not.
Okay. At 6 minutes and 35 seconds, there was a statement that their son was a perfect kid.
Yes,
In their eyes, he was a perfect kid.
that's what they said.
At 6 minutes and 45 seconds, James told you that he had a 6-hour handgun.
Yes,
That was, at 6 minutes and 50 seconds, he said that it was hidden in an armoire in a case.
correct.
At 6 minutes and 58 seconds, and these are approximate timestamps, so I'm not holding you to them,
I
Detective.
really appreciate it.
6 minutes and 58 seconds, that the bullets were hidden in a different spot under jeans, he says.
Yes, ma'am.
At that, it was shortly after that discussion that James indicated that they would like a lawyer present, and it was understood that it was for their son.
That's what my interpretation of what he said was, yes.
And we see that in the video. You, in fact, advised his son later in the video that that James and his wife want to hire retain an attorney for their son.
Yes,
Okay. And James continued to talk to you.
he did.
Jennifer explained that at the school advised that their son could stay at school or go home, but that they both indicated they wish they would have taken him home that day. If you recall.
I don't recall. I remember her saying it. I don't remember. There was over talking.
And we saw that. There was over talking a couple
Yes.
of times. James told you that he didn't have any trouble with his son, correct?
Correct.
In fact, you or your partner asked that. Have you ever had any trouble with him? Has he ever gotten in trouble? And James said no. He had mediocre grades, right?
Yes.
They were up and down. James or his wife indicated that they'd found out the night before that he had an E in geometry,
Yes.
and there was an argument about it that night.
Yes.
They had gotten on about his grades.
Yes.
at about 11 minutes and 17 seconds, and you weren't in the room, but you did see the video, your former partner, now retired partner, indicated that, or I'm sorry, reassured James that his son was going to be okay,
Yes,
that he was going to be safe.
correct.
Obviously, you can see from that conversation that James was concerned about his son,
Yes, he was.
and the safety of his son, and the well-being of his son.
Correct.
Your now retired partner also said that it was going to get worse before it got better.
Yes,
Meaning the situation that they were discussing on November 30th at approximately 2:58 p.m.
correct.
1:58 p.m. Thank you.
Yep,
At about 12 minutes and 5 seconds of the video, James indicates that his son was just fine that morning,
yes,
that he had talked to him,
yes,
that they had talked about the grades issue,
correct.
that James told his son, "We just want you to try."
Correct.
There was no indication that James had any concern about his son's well-being that morning, that he hadn't exhibited any signs that there was anything wrong. In fact, he had spoken with him and reassured him, correct?
That's what he told us, yes. I wasn't
Right.
there, obviously.
And you weren't there for the conversation, but in the moment during this interview, that was your understanding, that there
Yes.
had been this conversation, that there were no concerns based on that conversation.
Correct.
At about 12 minutes and 48 seconds, either you or your partner asked if James's son was active on social media, and he said no.
Correct. Yes, like on Facebook, but she jumped in and said Instagram, I think.
Correct. So James's wife was aware that their son was active on social media or Instagram, but James clearly was not aware of that.
I don't remember.
Okay. At approximately 13 minutes and 45 seconds, and there was some over talking, but there was a discussion about empty magazines.
Yes,
And specifically, either yourself or your partner asked if how many magazines there were in the house.
yes,
And the magazines were referring to the magazines that go into the firearm,
that's correct.
which is what holds the bullets.
Yes, ma'am.
And James indicated that there were 3 magazines,
Yes,
that they were all empty,
yes,
that they were stored empty,
yes,
that the gun was stored empty,
correct.
that the ammunition was stored separately.
Yes,
And then there was additional conversation between James and his wife about ammunition.
yes,
There was a question about how much ammunition was in the house.
that's correct.
And at about 13 minutes and 54 seconds, James indicates to his wife, "You bought the ammunition when you guys went to the shooting range."
Yes,
And you understood that to mean that James's wife and their son bought ammunition when they went to the shooting range at some day prior to November 30th.
Well, hold on a second, Judge. The video and the statements of James Crumbley and Jennifer Crumbley speak for themselves. His impression of what their statements are, that's an improper question. That's why we'll have a transcript of it.
Yeah, that would cause him to speculate his impression of what they said. Is that true?
What they
Well,
meant.
What he understood, that the statement, "You bought them when you went to the gun range," what that meant. I mean, I think it's pretty clear, but I can move on.
It's the video. It's a video, Judge.
There was, Jennifer Crumbley also indicated that going to the gun range was a hobby that James and his son did together.
yes,
At about 17 minutes and 32 seconds, James and his wife, yourself, and your partner leave that first interview room, and this is, and walk into the second interview room where their son is handcuffed to the wall.
yes,
You advised their son that James and his wife wanted to retain him an attorney. At 19 minutes, it was a fairly short interaction from what we can see on the video, correct?
extremely.
And at 19 minutes and 2 seconds, as James and his wife are leaving, James repeatedly tells his son that he loves him.
Yes, he does.
And he says it over and over. I think I counted 4 or 5 times.
Yes,
At 19 minutes and 18 seconds of the video, we switch back to the first interview room where James and Jennifer, yourself and your partner, are walking into that room. And James enters the room, and you can see on the video, he's obviously crying.
correct.
Very loudly.
Yes,
It could be described as sobbing.
one could characterize it as that. Yes, ma'am.
He's clearly incredibly emotional.
Yes,
Shortly after that, James asks about his son's whereabouts and if he will be made aware of where his son is going to be.
yes,
Again, it appeared that he was concerned about his son and if his son was going to be okay.
Again, that's speculation, Judge.
Well, you know, his statements speak for themselves. I don't think he needs to be interpreting them. That is speculating.
You've done many police interviews
I have.
in your career. You've been a law enforcement officer for 29 years.
Yes, ma'am.
You've been a detective for much of that 29 years.
Yes, ma'am.
Would you agree that James learning that his son was the shooter appeared to be very unexpected to him?
Objection to that question, obviously, Judge. That is blanket speculation.
Yeah, then he's trying to speculate about how your client was feeling, right?
I mean,
That is a clearly improper question.
Yeah, it's existing.
Thank you, Judge.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Real quick, Sergeant, let's talk about what James Crumbley didn't tell you. He never told you that he bought the murder weapon 4 days ago, did he?
He did not.
He never said he bought the murder weapon 4 days ago as a gift for his son.
He did not.
He never told you the gun was ever locked up, did he?
He did not.
He never told you the counselor told James and Jennifer Crumbley to take their son home that day, did he?
No, he did not.
Okay, in fact, he referred to it as doodling on the paper, right?
Correct.
He never actually mentioned that he actually had another son, too.
No.
In that portion of the video where he said, I love you, I love you, I love you, what was his son doing at that time?
Trying to talk to his mom.
Okay, and his son was actually saying, I did it at that point.
He did.
So James was yelling, I love you, I love you, I love you, louder, louder, and louder, over his son.
Your Honor, I don't know what the implication is that the prosecution is trying to make, but I don't think that's even a proper question.
Counsel clearly tried to paint a picture that he was saying, I love you to his son, and the video depicts something else, so I would like some context.
Okay,
Your Honor,
well,
I think-
whether or not he was trying to talk over his son is up to the jury
That's
to
fine.
determine. He's able to say, was he saying it at the same contemporaneous with his son saying, I did it, and in his opinion, did it get louder? But why he was saying it is up to the jury.
That's fair, Judge, thank you. Did he say it at the same time his son was confessing to a crime?
He was.
Okay, and did his voice elevate, get louder?
It did.
Okay. Now, they didn't retain him an attorney, though, did they?
Not that I have no knowledge of. No, they
Okay.
did not.
And James Crumbley actually did say to stop questioning, too.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Nothing further.
Anything?
No, Your Honor.
You can step down in your excuse.
All right. Thank you, Your Honor.
Who's next, please?
Miss Gibson Marshall, she's in the hallway.
Good afternoon. Could you raise your hand? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Are you ready to see it? And then could you tell us your first and last name and spell your first and last name for the record?
Christy Gibson Marshall, KRISTYGIBSON-MARSHALL.
Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Christy.
Hello.
It's okay if I call you Christy, right?
Of course.
All
Yes.
right. Christy, can you tell the jury what your job is?
I'm an assistant principal at Oxford High School.
Okay. And how long have you been in administration?
Just in administration.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. 20 years?
And did you do something else before that?
I was a teacher prior to that.
And where were you teaching?
Oxford High School and Oxford Elementary, Oxford Intermediate School.
Have you ever taught anywhere except in the Oxford School District?
No.
All right. And so a grand total of how many years so far?
29 years.
All right. Christy, in all of those 29 years, had you ever experienced an active shooter situation
No.
until November 30th?
Correct.
You had not?
No, I have not.
Okay. What kind of training had you received in an active shooting situation before November 30th?
We have our ALICE training, which is alert, lockdown, inform, communicate, evacuate.
Okay, and about how many years have you received that training?
I started getting it in elementary.
I'm gonna object to the relevance of how long they've been receiving the training.
I'm laying foundations because I'm gonna ask her later what she did, and I'm just laying a foundation for her.
Yeah, I'll allow it.
Thank you. How many years had you been trained in that?
I started that training in the elementary school, so probably close to 10 years.
Okay, and when you receive that training, does everybody receive it, just administrators? Or does it include students, teachers?
It includes students and teachers,
Okay.
yes.
Do you know the student that was the shooter on November 30th?
I do.
Okay, we refer to him as the shooter. How long had you known, that was the James Crumbley's son,
Yes.
is that correct?
Yes.
Before November 30th, had you ever met James Crumbley?
Probably I was Ethan's elementary school teacher or principal.
Okay. Do you have a specific memory of it, or you're not sure?
No, I don't have a specific memory, no.
Okay, let's go back to just James Crumbley's son. How long had you known him?
He transferred to our elementary in 4th grade, so 5 years.
Okay. And you eventually became an administrator in the high school?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So on that day, in November 30th, as part of your assistant principal duties, what are you doing throughout the day? I know you're probably doing a lot, but what are your responsibilities, particularly during passing time?
During passing time, we are just monitoring the hallways and making sure that people are safely getting from one place to the other, just talking to kids, connecting with kids, checking in on students.
And Chrissy, how would you describe how you show up in the building for kids?
My goal is to connect with students. Students make the day. Like, they just bring so much fun and life to our building. So connecting with the kids and checking on them and making sure they're doing good, and just connecting them to each other, and that's where our community is built, is within our schools, is
Okay.
that young age.
And even though you just testified you never had an active shooter situation, you did have a drill? Well, there were drills, I assume. I don't know though.
Yes.
Okay. What are you trained to do when the school goes on lockdown?
I'm trained to lock down.
And can you tell the jury what that means?
That means to take cover, to barricade the classroom door, to ensure the safety of the students and those around me.
Okay. You just testified that you think you probably met James Crumbley. Do you have a specific memory of meeting him?
I don't. I remember getting an email when Ethan was leaving elementary school, asking about a report card. Yeah.
And what did you respond, if you remember?
I responded how to get the report card and to give Ethan a hug for me.
Okay, but he wasn't in your school at that time?
He was leaving, going to middle school.
Okay. And do you know, was he in the district the entire time?
No.
Like, what were the years that James Crumbley's son was in Oxford School District, if you know?
4th grade through high school.
Okay. Directing your attention to November 30th, 2021, approximately 12:50, can you tell the jury where you were and what you were doing during that time?
I was in the cafeteria supervising lunches. It's a great time to be able to connect with kids. Kids are not in classrooms being super focused. They get to laugh and joke with you, and so it's a really good time to just connect with kids. It's lunchtime.
Okay, and at some point, did you leave the cafeteria?
I did.
And where did you go?
I went to,
Before you look at the map,
Okay,
and the jury
sorry.
looks at the map, can you tell me exactly where you went and describe it first?
okay, so I went.
Whenever you put something on the screen, as you know, an educator, that means that people are looking at the screen and not.
I went to the senior window. I headed towards the senior window. I didn't quite get all the way there prior to.
And what's the senior window?
Senior window is a little area in our school that our seniors kind of hang out, and it's like their little status symbol.
Okay. And is that where you station yourself during passing time at that time?
A lot of times I do, just to make sure that they're allowing people to get traffic to go through. Somebody is almost always stationed there to make sure that it's
People meaning underclassmen?
underclassmen.
Okay.
Yeah, sweet little freshmen. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Drawing your attention to the map, which was previously admitted Exhibit 9, Your Honor. What is that?
That's our school.
Okay. And can you point to the senior, where you were at that time? And Mr. Keister already knows that, so I think he's going to direct your attention with the magnifying.
Yeah, so I started in the commons area that he has highlighted there, and then I came down. I don't even think this hallway has a number, but it's between the choir room and the guitar piano room, and then ended down by the senior courtyard hallway area there.
Which is right there where he...
Yeah, highlighted that little, right in front of the courtyard is where the senior window technically is, but I stopped right here at this.
Right there?
Yeah, this little diamond area.
Okay. And this was during passing time?
Yes.
All right, what's typically going on during passing time? Is it enough time for kids to get from one place to another,
Yeah.
or are people rushing?
Yes. Some kids rush. It depends on another lunch is happening. They rush to get into the lunch line, but
And Molly Dynal previously testified that there's a schedule where kids are actually going to class,
Your Honor, I'm
then
going to
lunch.
object to the form of the question.
Your Honor, I'm trying to lay a foundation. I'm not trying to suggest an answer to the witness, which is why we don't allow leading questions. So if I can just get through that, then I will ask for the direct question.
There's 3 different lunch periods, right?
correct.
Thank you, Your Honor. All right. So you were did you say you were in the senior hall around this time of 12:50?
Yes.
Okay. Was there any moment where you noticed something unusual?
Yeah. Usually I would go all the way to the senior window, but I paused at the diamond there just because there were a lot of kids rushing, laughing and rushing, and it was bizarre to me. I didn't know what was happening at that time.
Okay. You just testified some kids rush, but your answer just now suggests that the rushing seemed something bizarre.
Very different.
Okay. Can you describe to the jury what you mean by that?
Okay, so rushing to lunch is like a Olympic power walk situation, and running out of the building is different. So it appeared as though, I don't want to say they were running out of the building because I was not anywhere near a door to know where they were going, but there was more running and laughing going on.
And what did you think at that moment?
I thought it was very odd.
Okay.
Yeah.
What did you do next?
I asked a couple of students what was happening. They didn't know. And then a student came by running and saying, "Get the hell out of here." And then
To you?
to anybody, just announced it in that area.
Did that seem unusual?
Extremely.
Okay. At some point, did you get information that there was an active shooter?
Not at that point, no.
Okay. So the student that you mentioned comes towards you running and yells,
Get the hell out of here.
and what do you do next?
I asked a couple of kids what was going on. They didn't know, again.
So what did you do?
Well, almost immediately after that, I asked the kids, the PA system went off and said to take Alice protocol.
So that was that the first time you were alerted that there was an active shooter?
That was the first time I knew something was happening.
Okay.
Still didn't know it was an active shooter.
Did you know, okay, fair. Did you know if it was a drill or a real Alice?
I didn't know. I just knew that we were going into Alice protocol.
Okay. Before I ask you some more questions, I just want to stop here because I forgot to ask you so we can get a good picture. The school holds about how many students on one day?
About 1,800.
Okay. And this might not be a fair question, and just tell me if it's not. What kind of familiarity do you have with the general student body?
I try to know everybody's name, so I am pretty familiar with the students.
Okay. When you heard the announcement, were you aware of who made the announcement?
It sounded like Steve Wolf.
And who was that?
That was our principal at the time.
Okay. What did you do?
I started to check the hallway to make sure it was getting cleared. The hallways cleared extremely fast. So I walked toward the 400 hallway. I got on the walkie and said there are students running. I'm not sure what's happening. But the hallways cleared, just completely cleared out. So then I turned down the floor.
Did you hear anything else at that point?
No.
Okay. So you're in the 400 hallway, did you say?
Correct.
Okay.
So starting at the top of the 400, yeah.
And the announcement was to implement Alice protocol. Did you say that?
Yes.
Okay. And is that what you did?
I made sure the kids did.
Okay.
I did not.
What did you do?
I went down the 400 hallway to make sure that the hallway I was closest to, students were taking cover. They did very quickly. One student came up very late to the situation, and I made sure that he got into a classroom. He asked if it was a drill. I said, it doesn't matter if it's a drill. You got to take cover.
At this point in the hall, when you were walking down these halls, were the classroom doors open or closed?
Closed.
Okay. So you got that student in the classroom.
That teacher was locking the door.
Okay.
So that teacher was out locking the door, and I put him in that classroom with that teacher.
Okay. And then did you go into lockdown?
I did not.
Okay. Tell the jury what you did.
After that door was secured, I could smell what I called cap gun at the time, but I now know it was gunpowder. And
Before that, I just want to stop you. Before that, did you hear anything?
I don't think I had yet. I can't remember the order, but then shortly after that, I heard gunshots.
Okay. At this point, what kind of familiarity did you have with firearms? And the reason I'm asking is, did you know when you heard that sound what it was?
I knew what it was, but I don't have a lot of experience with firearms.
Okay. So you're hearing the sound, you smell what you think is
Cap gun.
right.
It's so weird, but yeah.
And so then you go into lockdown.
I did not.
Tell the jury what you did.
I went towards the gunfire to see what was happening because I wanted to make sure that our kids were safe.
Okay. Can you tell us and relate where you were to the map in terms of which hallway, which classroom, so that we can direct the jury to the right?
So I was down around room 408 and 409, and then moving towards 416.
Okay.
And then when I got to 416, at the end of that hallway, I turned left towards where the gunfire had happened.
So you ran towards the sound?
I did.
Okay. What did you see, Christy?
I saw a student on the ground, so I approached that direction. I was concerned about the student on the ground. I couldn't tell who the student was, but I saw a student laying on the ground.
Did you see anything else in the hallways at this point?
At that moment, I don't believe I did quite yet. Shortly after I did, like very quickly.
Any other people?
Shortly after recognizing that there was a student on the ground, there was a student coming my direction.
Okay, but Any other staff, administration,
No,
teachers,
no,
students?
just me.
Okay. Now, the judges made very specific rulings that you cannot talk about any sort of highly suffering. So I want to make sure that we describe what happened, but in a way that comports with her order. Did you approach that student?
The student on the ground?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. And describe how the student was lying down. Face down, face up.
He was face down and looking away down, well, face down. His head was more turned towards that opposite of where I was. So
Away from you.
away from
Okay.
me. And there was a garbage can in the way, so I moved the garbage can out of the way so I could get to him better.
And Chrissy, when you approached the student, did you have could you see any signs of injury? Did you know what happened to the student? Were you,
I didn't know anything at that point, no.
okay, what did you do next?
I looked up the hallway and I could see another student look like he was bringing his arm down. My assumption was that that was probably the shooter.
And so what did you do?
I let the officer know in Milwaukee that I had eyes on the shooter.
Okay. And were you instructed to do anything at that point?
I don't remember.
Would it have mattered?
Probably not.
Okay.
I had a student at my feet.
Okay. Tell the jury what you did.
The shooter was coming closer to me. As he got very close, I realized it was Ethan, and it didn't seem right to me because Ethan always seemed like a sweet kid. I just couldn't picture that being him, so I talked to him. As he walked by, I asked him if he was okay, what was going on. I took a few steps down the hallway with him.
Did you see that he was holding anything?
Yeah, he had a gun in his hand.
Okay.
And
What did the shooter do? Did he look at you? Did he turn away? Did he speak to you?
he looked away from me, which that made me, I knew for sure that at that point he was the shooter because he would have talked to me. If he were in a, typically he would have said something to me. He would have talked to me.
Okay. And I do have to ask, why didn't you take cover?
There was a student that needed my help.
Okay. So at some point, were you alone in that space? Did the shooter pass you by? Did he stop?
He kept walking. I walked with him for just a couple of steps and a few, I don't know, probably, I can't even measure, probably 10 feet. And then I turned my back on him. I know this is ridiculous that I did, but I turned my back on him because I had a student that I needed to check on.
Okay, and I'm sorry, I have to ask you to keep your voice up.
Sorry. So I turned my back on him. I wasn't sure where he went. He was past me. And then I went back to the student that was on the ground.
Okay. At that point, could you identify who the student was?
At that point, I rolled him over and I realized that it was Tate Near.
Did you notice if he was injured?
At that point, I knew that he had a bullet wound.
Did he have what? I'm sorry.
He had a bullet wound entering in the back of his head and exiting in the front.
Was he still alive?
I hoped he was. He was very gray, but I started to resuscitate immediately.
Okay.
He
What
had a
happened?
pulse.
What's that?
He had a pulse.
Okay. You knew him?
Yeah, I had all of his brothers, and his mom was my PTO president. I've known the family really well.
Okay. What happened next?
I just began to give him rescue breaths.
How long did that go on?
Your Honor, may we approach?
Next question, please. Next question.
how long was it? I asked what happened next year, I'm doing my best.
Okay, what happened?
Without saying what that experience was like for you, was there a moment when you stopped, and what happened to make you stop?
I continued until they took him from me.
Okay. And what happened next?
Kurt News came up. He had called on the walkie to see where I was.
Is that the principal?
That's one of the
You
assistant
know, if I can
principals.
just get some permission to leave just a little bit so we can move past this and comply with the court's order, but I'm concerned about an objection so that I can get to the, I don't want to violate the court's order, so I'm just going to ask a few leading questions so that we can move past that. What happened? Did somebody approach you at some point and ask you about the shooter's whereabouts?
Kim Potts came up and told me it was a drill, and pardon me, you guys, I'm so sorry. My students are going to hear this, it's horrible. But I told her it was not a fucking drill, that that someone had been shot, and she kind of grabbed her gun and went.
And I'm sorry, Chrissy, tell the jury who Kim Potts is because they don't know who Kim Potts
She
is.
was a retired police officer who was worked in our lunchroom.
Okay.
Yeah.
So she wasn't technically a security person,
No.
but she did carry a weapon.
Yes.
Okay.
And so I just said he went that way, and I just kept waving my arm that way.
Okay. If we go back to the map, you were, at this point, when you were with Tate, what classroom were you around, if you know?
So I would have been by room 223. Actually, in that, see, there's this little space between 223 and 225. There's two doors. One goes into the courtyard and one goes out of the building. That's where Tate and I were.
Okay. And when you say you pointed that way, which direction?
Towards 225. I didn't know where he went. I just knew he went that direction.
Okay. And so if Mr. Keys can at least, so that way?
Yes,
Okay.
correct.
All right. And,
I told Kurt News that same thing when he came up.
okay, that's what I was trying to get to.
Yeah.
At what point did who's Kurt News?
Kurt News is one of the other assistant principals. He was responding to me on the walkie to find out where I was.
Okay, and at what point did he appear, if you know?
Just before Kim did, because he went into the courtyard to go see if he could get one of our medical staff to help. And then he came back out and realized that everyone's in lockdown, he can't go that way. So then he went out the other doors to get EMS. So between when he went into the courtyard and when he went to EMS, Kim had come down the hallway.
Okay.
And then Steve Wolf arrived shortly after that. I
Okay.
feel terrible because they came to help me. They should have been in lockdown.
Like you should have been locked.
I didn't need to spare others
Okay,
either.
okay. All right. What happened after that? You said eventually somebody took Tate away.
The police arrived, and Deputy Freiberg came up, and Deputy Freiberg was one of my parents at Lakeville. And when he came up to me, he recognized me right away and came up and asked me what I needed. He was surveying the scene.
Okay, what's Lakeville?
It's the elementary school I was the principal of.
Okay.
And I told Shane, Detective Freiberg, that it was Tate, because he knows the family really well too. And it appeared as though it took his breath away, and he said, "I'll be right back." And so then they went and secured the scene, and that's when Ethan came out of the bathroom and was arrested.
Did you see that?
I did. They couldn't remember, they didn't know his name, they kept asking his name, so I went down and told him his name, and then I came back to Tate because I didn't want to leave Tate.
Okay. Were you aware that that was the bathroom where Justin Schilling was killed? Did you see any other victims that day? Oh, strike that. At that point?
At that point,
Okay. Have you seen the the video
Yes,
of you that day?
yes.
Okay. That's been marked as Exhibit 13, I believe. It's been admitted. And I do want to alert, we have alerted our victims in the courtroom, Your Honor, but the media,
Yeah, we're not gonna show this on TV, okay? All right.
Your Honor,
This-
just for the record, I did have an objection to this. I'm just renewing that objection for the reasons previously stated.
Correct, we discussed that.
Yes, Your
Thank
Honor.
you, Ms. Senior. Okay, so exhibit 13 is not going to be shown on television. And I think that the victims who are present know what video you're talking about.
our victim advocates are there, Your Honor. We prepared them. They know that they can leave the courtroom if that's what they wish to do.
All right.
Is there any audio on this?
No?
And Christy, can you tell us when you come into image? The
So,
image?
so I'm in the image there in the yellow sweater.
Okay. Do you have the ability to move that? Right there?
Yes.
Okay. And then can you let us know when you see the student you described that came up to you?
Right there. That was him running right there. And then the other students running behind him.
Now, this video is, there's no sound, but this is in real time, in terms of, you can
Yes.
see that, well, can you describe what you see in terms of the students' movements?
They are running.
Okay.
So that's when I said on the walkie that students are running, and I didn't know what was happening. And then you'll notice that the hallway's clear almost immediately.
Okay.
This is when I go down the 400 hallway.
Thank you, Stephanie. Who is that, Christy?
That's Ethan.
Okay.
This is me telling the teacher,
Where?
there's a
Top of the
teacher
screen?
here. I'm checking doors up at the top of the screen, and then a teacher came out, and then a student joined them. And then this is me coming, bless you, started smelling this is me telling when I smell cap gun and walking towards where I heard the shots.
Okay.
So right there is where I noticed Ethan, because I stepped aside and said I have eyes on the shooter.
And at that point, had you observed Tate?
I could see Tate on the ground. Yes.
Okay, we can't see him in this picture though, okay.
No. See me move the garbage can?
Is that Tate lying on the ground, Christy?
That's Tate on the ground, yes.
And who are you looking at right then, down that
Ethan.
hallway?
I'm looking at Ethan. And I'm talking to Tate at that point.
And who do we see?
Ethan's walking up to us.
Now, from the time that you observed him, was he always walking at that pace or was he ever running?
He was always walking.
Okay.
And that's when I walked with him to talk to him. He wouldn't respond. And this is when I discovered it was Tate.
could stop that for a second. Who are those people?
Those are the officers that, I don't know which ones, but, and then looks like Ken Weaver. I think it's Ken Weaver there.
And is this after Tate was already taken away? This video, or is this?
No, Tate was still there. I got up from Tate because they couldn't figure out who the student was, and I needed to tell them what his name was, so then I
Okay,
ran down to tell him his name,
So
and then I ran
hold on
back.
one second. Is it at the top of the screen right there?
Yes.
What is that?
That's,
Right up there.
that is Ethan being arrested.
Okay.
So I went down to give them his name, and then I went right back to Tate. I think he was asking me more questions, and I said, I've got to get back.
Nothing further at this time, Your Honor.
Cross?
No cross run.
Can she be excused, Your Honor?
Yeah, you can step down.
Great question.
Sure. Could you turn on the audio, please? Good progress, but others, so let's keep the TV off and news. If you're not reading the news, it maintains your blood pressure too, I've noticed, so that's a good sign. I'm going to order all of you to remain healthy this weekend. All right, any questions about the schedule? So we'll go all day Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. You could have the case by then. All right, we're making good progress, so be ready for some heavy lifting on Monday. Anybody, any questions? Please, we've come this far, we need your help. Don't talk about the case. Enjoy your weekend. Well, the bad news, to me, the bad news is that we can't go any further today, but it's also the good news because we made such good progress that, we sort of ran out of witnesses. So people have to be scheduled to come here, so it's a big, we're moving a lot of people around, right? So. Good? Oh, and place your lunch order before you leave, all right? All right, thank you very much.
All rise for the jury.
Okay. Anybody, anything? 9 o'clock on Monday. It's apparent to me that there's at least one person in the courtroom who is ill, and it's disturbing to me that that person would risk the health of everybody else here. I know everybody here needs to remain healthy. I know that I'm taking my vitamins and getting my sleep because I'm expected to be here every day, and so are the lawyers. So I think the person who's sick should think twice, all right? Because we have air filters, we have hand sanitizer, but it's kind of unfair to everybody else, right? All right. Anything else?
No, Judge, thank you.
Okay, so you can take him down. Thanks.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, so that concludes an early day. They're having a Tyrone Tucker like trial issue. The prosecution is, at least, because they're briskly moving through these witnesses. Apparently, they mistimed the days. Uh, I think things are rolling quite nicely for the defense. The defense is making great points. The state, you got to remember, the state doesn't have the salaciousness of the Crumbley trial. Remember, they got to call the lover, and they got to put on all this information about, the affair and all of that stuff. That's no longer going to. That's not something that's going to be happening. Um, that's not something that's going to be happening in this case because it's not relevant. So they're not going to get to bring it in because it doesn't apply to James Crumbley. So you heard the jury or the judge. She thinks this case could be to them by possibly Wednesday. So we'll see how this goes. I don't see why James Crumbley would testify. I don't think he needs to. I don't think we need to hear from him. I think if the defense makes the argument the way it should be, I mean, I think it's very crystal clear to me. There's a strong case to make that he cared about his kid. He wanted the best for his son. He was not an absentee parent like the state was able to make it a big way with Jennifer by showing that she was out having affairs and at the horse barn. He was the one that was with his son. He was the one who thought his son was okay. He was obviously devastated and shocked. Of course, that jerk Keast, wants to make the point that he was trying to yell over his son saying he did it. Well, so what? That's a caring parent, you doofus. Like, the fact that he didn't want his son to be on the record confessing shows he cared about the welfare, well-being, and future of his son. So if he thought his son was going to be a school shooter, that type of dad that's yelling and raising his voice over his son's I did it, I did it, I did it, that demonstrates a parent that cares. So, you want to go make your asshole question and insinuations. I hope that attorney hits back. I mean, I think this is going to be a different verdict, folks. I'm feeling it. I mean, of course, I thought Jennifer Crumbley was going to be not guilty because I just felt like the jury would find that. But I think this one, this attorney's different. All right, this attorney's going to make the right arguments, I think, and that's all it would have taken in the Jennifer Crumbley case. Now, Jennifer Crumbley case, a lot of garbage came in that tainted the likability of her. What's there to dislike about James Crumbley besides he seems like an everyday individual? I know I've heard from some viewers there that they were going to be putting on information about this other child that he has, but that doesn't mean that he disregards or would have disregarded the idea that his son was going to shoot up a school. So that doesn't make a difference. The state here, we've got a good shot. He's got a good shot of seeing a not guilty verdict here. So if I'm him, I'm feeling pretty good this weekend. Now, I don't know what he got himself into with threatening witnesses and stuff. If he did that, incredibly stupid. They're definitely going to come after him. He could find himself in contempt. He could find himself with witness intimidation charges. And it seems like the state is more than willing to try to pursue that, but we'll see what happens. But I mean, when the man leaves, even if the man does get off and he leaves, which eventually both of them are going to get out of jail at some point, but boy, what a state of affairs their life is in now. His son's in prison for the rest of his life. His wife, oh man, she's in jail. He found out that she's cheating on him and swinging cheating. I mean, unbelievable stuff. So it's a heavy reality that James Crumbley walks into right now. So with that said, we have a little bit of an early afternoon. As I mentioned, John DeLee is being sentenced. So we're going to jump in there right now and watch that because I want to watch that, and I'm going to watch it because this was a case, just to give you background. This was a case that was I had covered. It was like my second case. I did a couple of live days, but it wasn't fully live. Let's see here. I need to see where it's at right now. Okay, here we go. Let's jump in here. He's about to address the court, so let's jump in.
Say I'm sorry.
Yeah, you don't, Mr. Lee, I don't mean to interrupt. You don't have to bend over. It'll
I
pick
just
up.
want to say I'm sorry to Timmy's family and the court and my family too.
And with that, Your Honor, I have nothing further.
Did you have any rebuttal or response?
No, I was
Can
going to say no, Your Honor.
Yeah, can I just see counsel briefly at the bench?
All right, so they're at bench conference. So to finish off what you guys are about to see here, John DeLee was in a bar fight. And if you go back on one of my very second, third, or fourth video, I put together. It took me a long time, and I put together a video of all of the surveillance footage. I had to go back and all the trial footage and everything, proving that he should not have been convicted of second degree unaliving like he was. Okay. And this was a situation where there was a gentleman, the gentleman that got shot. Okay. Very tragic, but there was another gentleman that was involved, and it was essentially a setup. They went in and they, set in motion a series of events. Now, obviously, he shouldn't have walked away from this, but it was a situation where he was left with no choice what to do, what happened. He was lured to an area. Again, you need to watch the video. I can tell you all about it, and you're going to look at it. And if you go into the comments of Law and Crime, you're going to see various people saying various things. But let's jump here. It looks like the judge is going to impose sentence. Let's take a look and let's watch. So here we are. They're still in bench conference. So he's facing, I believe he's facing up to life in prison, if I'm not mistaken. And the judge is about to impose sentence. Probably very likely he's going to get life given the circumstances, but it's what happens. Now, obviously, there's also some very obvious things here that would say this gentleman, he had a gun on him. He probably would have behooved him to not have had that gun on him in a bar. Would have behooved him to have not probably pulled the gun out. But these guys were trained MMA fighters that were coming after him, trained ninjas, as I like to say. They were coming at him, and he ended up firing, making the mistake. Now, here's the thing. He had pulled the gun out because he'd been beaten up multiple times. He'd been jumped in the bar. He's leaving. He's upset. He's talking smack out in the street. He starts moving down, and these guys come up on him. He pulls his gun out and says, listen, I'm not getting hit in the face again. Anybody else comes and hits me again, you're getting this. Because I'm not playing anymore. And they had these guys surround him with mace and start chasing him up the street. And one of the guys walks right over to him with the gun in his hand, punches him in the face while the other two guys are coming up, advancing on him. Obviously, what do we think they're trying to do? They're trying to go get the gun. They're trying to create the circumstances that would allow them to justify killing John DeLee. I firmly believe if DeLee goes down in that instance, they're getting that gun, they're shooting him, and we're seeing the trial, an opposite trial here with people arguing, hey, it was self-defense, we had to get the gun, it was us or them. But circumstances are he shot the young man. Everybody scatters like roaches. Police come in, they're called, and here we are. And I believe it firmly should have been voluntary manslaughter, in my opinion, at worst. All right, here we go. Let's see what's up. I guess the judge is going to take a break, I guess. Huh. Okay.
Getting out in his 50s. Otherwise, we're still talking about him getting out well into his 30s. That's the kind of time frame. It's an extraordinary period of time, and it certainly cannot compare to, obviously, to the loss. I'm going to briefly touch on
right, so it looks like they're on break. So we're going to rewind the sentencing hearing, check it out. Since I guess the judge is taking a break, it appears. I'm going to verify that and confirm that. That is in fact what's going on here. Perhaps they're coming back at a separate time. I don't know. All right, so I apologize. I'm just trying to figure out what's going on here. If I believe it is that, from what I can tell, I believe it's a situation where we're waiting. The judge took a recess, and I guess it's going to come back. Okay, so let's go backwards here. Let's jump back here. All right, so let's jump back into courtroom, guys. We're going to watch this from the beginning because I think they're on about a half hour to 45 minutes recess while the judge considers what sentence he wants to give. This is a tough one. If you watch the trial, which I did, I believe that the judge has a tough decision here. But let's get this pulled back up. And we're going to go ahead and roll the sentencing here. Here we go. And this is the John DeLee case, guys. Let me put a little thing up here to let everybody know.
Thank you very much. I did, thank you for your patience. I saw that there was a letter uploaded by you on behalf of your client, which I had a chance to read, and the video. I believe that you submitted to Case Line, so I watched that just before coming out to the bench, and I have read both of the sentencing memoranda as well. So why don't we start with the state?
Thank you, Art. And just following up on that video, just for purposes of the record, the state had a witness prepared to testify. An agreement was reached between counsel, so defense had no objection to that video. So I just want to cover that for the record.
Thank you.
Your Honor, I tend to be brief. From the state's perspective, this is about the victims and their opportunity to address the court and express the grief and the trauma that they've experienced. Obviously, the state has extensively addressed its position in the memorandum, and so I will rely upon that as well as Your Honor's observation of the courtroom, the evidence that came in. The state, would note we would contest various aspects and errors within the defendant's sentencing memorandum, but I will save the back and forth on that. But one point I do think that is important is that what the defendant is asking for is a manslaughter. That the jury had an opportunity to consider, and they expressly rejected. This case is a second-degree homicide, not just a reckless homicide, but a knowing second-degree homicide. This is not a case in which the defendant should be sentenced consistent with a manslaughter. The court is well aware of typical manslaughter sentences and comparative homicide sentences. The defendant should be sentenced justly and appropriately consistent with his conviction. Beyond that, Your Honor, happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, I'd ask for the court's permission for the victims to be heard, please. Thank you. So first is going to be Alan Pouliot. The monitor has the spellings, Your Honor, and this is Timmy's father.
Hi, good afternoon. This would be my first public speaking. This is the first time that I had to open my heart in front of the courtroom and to the whole world on behalf of Timothy Pouliot, my beloved son. I never thought how hard it was going to be to write an impact statement from my heart for the murder of a barbaric execution of my son Timothy. I would like to say to the court and to the world, I am not here to judge anybody. That's God's job. It's because we all sin and we all fall short of the glory of God. I am so glad that's not my job. I pray that God would give comfort to anyone that is still mourning the death of Timothy. I would like to thank the court and the prosecution for their time and for the amazing hard work and dedication that was done in piecing together the evidence and witnesses that led to the conviction of John Dealey. My beloved son Timothy deserves to be honored and receive justice for his senseless murder by a barbaric execution. I remember that day when I got a knock at the door saying that your son got shot and killed outside on Old Greenwich Street, right next to Soho, near the Club Goat, where he came out of. And when I was told he was shot and killed, at that moment, I didn't have any emotions. That's how much of a shock it was to me. There were a lot of good times that I had with my beloved son, Timothy. I never got to say goodbye to my son. That is the hardest thing that I will have to live with for the rest of my life. I am deeply saddened that I will not be able to make any more happy memories of Timothy. I will never be able to see him again here on earth, but I will see him again at the rapture of the church or in heaven when I die. I can't wait for the day. It will be the happiest day of my life. I really wanted to be a part of his wedding. Also, Timothy will be able to see his daughter Arabella get married. Now he can't be a part of her wedding or any special events that will happen in her life. I'm really thankful that the Lord allowed me to see Timothy for the short time before he was killed in an execution-style shootout. It will bother me forever knowing the way that he was killed and why he was killed. My beloved son Timothy was coming over to spend time with us, and I got to see my granddaughter also. Timothy wanted me to sign up to trade with him online. He was helping me sign up, and he traded on my account for me, and he was happy about me trading. That was the last time that I saw him alive. I didn't think this would be the last time that I would be able to talk with him and enjoy his company anymore. That breaks my heart and soul, especially as a dad. Anybody that met Timothy, they fell in love with his positive energy and his passion for life, was on fire and was inspiring in his selfless love for people. There were some people that said that Timothy changed their lives in many ways. I never thought that one of my children would be the victim of gun violence. Now I know what it feels like. It's like you're having a nightmare, but you can't wake up from this dream. This experience will last a lifetime. Timothy was a very intelligent person. His light shines so bright towards people on social media. He always thought of others before himself. He also helped people if he could without asking for money. He never put that righteous light under a lampstand and hide it from anyone. He showed people that what he stood for, and Timothy had a positive future. He could have completed the things that he wanted to achieve to the course of his life. The people he definitely would have blessed with his love, compassion, his selfless acts of love towards people. Timothy had such a gifted soul. I will miss that a lot. Also, his positive ideas and encouragement to anyone he met in person or on social media. Timothy liked helping people. He cared about people. He was also, I was so proud of him when he graduated high school. I am still proud of who he became as a young man who searched after God's own heart. He thought he could help people, even if it endangered his own life. He told me that he was not afraid of dying. Every time I wake up, I think of Timothy and I miss him dearly. All day long, I think of why he had to lose his life. Why him? There's a saying, only good people die young, the ones that make the most impact in society. I wanted to give some of my possessions to my son, Timothy, when it was my time, but I never thought that it would be him that I would be going to his funeral instead of me. You never thought that you would have to say goodbye to your son and bury one of your loved ones before you. That is the most terrifying thing that could happen to you. How could such a gifted, loving heart die the way he did? It's incomprehensible. My beloved son Timothy will always be in my heart. Timothy will always be a thorn in my heart forever, to remind me of how much I really loved my beloved son Timothy and how short of a time that we have with our loved ones. They're here today and gone tomorrow. In 2 Timothy 4, verse 7 through 8, my son Timothy fought the good fight. He has finished the race. He has kept the faith henceforth. There I laid up for me the crown of righteousness. In John 3:16, for God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish, but have eternal life. I will always love you, my beloved son Timothy. You will remain in my memories, in my heart forever. This is to you, John. The message is for you, John, from God. In Proverbs 18 through 5, it says, to do righteous and justice is more acceptable to the Lord than sacrifice. When justice is done, it is joy to the righteous, but terror to evildoers. Proverbs 29:26, it is not good to be partial to the wicked or to deprive the righteous of justice. John, you didn't study the law before you bought your gun, on strict rules of owning a gun, especially about self-defense. Because you neglected it, you are now suffering the highest consequence. John, you destroyed your life when you killed Timothy. What kind of life do you have now? Soon you will be losing your freedom for a very long time because you barbarically executed and murdered Timothy. You had to shoot him 8 times and watch him die for 30 seconds. He had to live. And you watched him drown in his own blood, and then you walked away. You deserve to lose your life, but God is giving you mercy today. You called him Manchester scum. Some people live not so great areas, but they are the most loving and giving people that I have ever met. It is not the town you live in, the state, or the country you live in that defines a person. It is your heart, your morals, and what you believe in. It's about the what war this country and the freedoms that you have, John, sacrifice that were made so that we could live in a peaceful society. This action you did disgraces the country for all who fought and died to have the freedoms that you have today. You don't deserve any of the freedoms that our forefathers fought. You call shooting somebody in the back self-defense by shooting Timothy and lowering a gun to the ground till he was dead in anger. And you started this whole thing yourself. This senseless execution-style murder is all yours and only yours, John. You not only took him from his family, but you took him from his friends, the community, and online, ones that loved him dearly. So when you decided to buy your gun and use it to recklessly kill Timothy, you didn't have any regard for human life, and you didn't care about the people around you put in danger. You chose to bring a gun to a bar knowing that when you drink alcohol, it changes your state of mind, of judgment and reasoning when using a firearm. Do you know what it is like to go to a funeral home and see your son lying on a gurney, John? Do you? Deceased, do you, John? I don't think that you have any idea, John, what it's like. It is the most terrifying and hard to go through as a mother, a father, a sister, a brother, an uncle, a nephew, and friends. You destroyed your life for making the wrong decision when you chose to go to a club to party and get intoxicated and not thinking what the consequences would be for using your gun recklessly for the horrendous act of gun violence under the influence of alcohol. So in doing so, you deserve to spend most of your miserable life in prison so you can think about it day in and day out for your actions. But you're going to suffer much more than my son did for your barbaric execution-style murder of my son. When my son died, my son was met by an angel. He is in heaven now with Jesus. He had eternal life. He was a born-again Christian, by the way, John. My son was saved by Jesus Christ, the one that died for our sins. And this is the only one that can forgive sin. Timothy was considered a righteous man in God's eyes. You did not win over him in this life or in the next life. Timothy has endless joy and happiness in the arms of God. You committed one of the highest sins in the sight of God. This is how to change the hearts of men. In Psalms 51:10, create in me a clean heart, O God, and renew a right spirit within me. In Acts, and God who knows the heart bore witness to them by giving them the Holy Spirit, just as he did to us. And he made no distinction between us and them, having cleansed their hearts by faith. In Romans 6:23, for the wages of sin is death, but the free gift of God is eternal life in Christ Jesus our Lord. The only way to have that sin forgiven is through Jesus Christ. You must be born again of the Spirit to have your sins forgiven. You have two choices: to accept him as your Lord and Savior, or if you can't open your heart to Jesus Christ, the one that forgives sin, then your sin will not be forgiven. Your sin will, you will have to answer for it on the white throne judgment day. That's all you have for choices. It looks like you have to think about that a lot, but don't take too long, John. John, I forgive you for what you have done. I love you, John, and I love your family. I am not angry at you for killing my son. You will not consume my life with hate and unforgiveness. So it says in Matthew 6:14 through 15, for if you forgive others their trespasses, your heavenly Father will also forgive you. But if you do not forgive others their trespasses, neither will your Father forgive your trespasses. In Romans 12:19, dear friends, never take revenge. Leave that to the righteous anger of God. For the scriptures say, I will take revenge. I will pay them back, says the Lord. Instead, if your enemies are hungry, feed them. If they are thirsty, give them something to drink. In doing this, you will heap hurling coals of shame on their heads. Don't let evil conquer you, but conquer evil by doing good. I'm done.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that input.
Our next is Michelle Pouliot. This is Timmy's mother.
Don't mind my voice. I just get over a cold.
It's okay.
Sorry.
Take your time.
First of all, I want to thank the court for your time in hearing this case. And I want to thank the prosecution team, Amy, Scott, and Rachel, for the amazing work they did on convicting a murderer and help putting him away. I waited all this time to look you in the eyes and ask you why. Why 8 times? 4 times my son would have forgave you. 8. He was the most loved, caring person you will ever meet. And even if you guys did have a fight that night, he would have walked right up to you, and the man he is, he would have said, I forgive you. But you didn't. You didn't. You looked at my son as he was suffering, laying there on the ground. You white scum. White man, just white trash. He was by far white trash. I remember it like it was yesterday. Friday evening, I left work. I came home, and my son and granddaughter were there. My son asked me, Mom, can you watch Arabella for a while? And I said, absolutely. I would never turn down my granddaughter. And there was some reason that night my granddaughter did not want my son to leave. I don't know what it was. She was hanging on to him. She was just screaming and crying. He wasn't going to go out. But I said, Bud, she'll be fine. You never get to go out. You always work. A couple hours ain't going to be anything bad. He walked up to me, and he gave me a hug and said, Mama, I will be fine. And I said, please stay safe. But every day in my heart, I regret that I didn't say no. I have so much guilt that if I had only said no to him, he would still be alive. When I get that knock at that door, Saturday, from Amy and the detective, I knew they weren't coming to have coffee. And I knew exactly what they were there for. So I ran up in my room and I didn't want to hear it. So I made my husband go down there and talk to them. And he came back and said, yes, he was killed in a shootout outside the goat last night. And when I found out the way that he was murdered, you are a killer. You will always be a murderer and a killer. You executed a kid that was way smaller than you. Almost 200 pounds lighter. You could have whipped his butt. But you're a coward. You took the easy way out. All over a girl. A girl. See the pain in my son, Brendan's eyes, because him and Timothy were Irish twins. They were acceptable together. They did everything together. And to see him mourning in a pain in his heart, and there was nothing I could do to make it better. When I gave birth to my daughter, I always wanted my complete family. Married 31 years, 2 kids, call it a day. I tried like anything to give birth to another child. And they told me, no, Michelle, you are not going to be able to have any more kids. I had 5 miscarriages. So in my eyes, Timothy was my miracle baby. And that's why he was so kind. He was so loving. He loved anyone. To have 400 people at his funeral. 400 people, John, at a funeral. The funeral home didn't even understand how so many people, and then they kept coming. I had his grade school teachers reaching out to me, told me that Timothy was a major big deal. He used to go and take 12-year-old kids off the streets and teach them Taekwondo for absolutely free. For why? Discipline, respect for elders. Well, maybe that's what you lacked, was discipline. And to see 4 12-year-old boys look me in the face and crying their hearts out and saying, it's not going to be the same without Timothy. John, out of this whole trial, you haven't shown one bit of emotion or feeling bad for what you did. I get it. Alcohol plays a big factor. Alcohol and guns do not mix. And good question. How'd you get into the club with a gun? I guess that's mysterious too. After you shot my son 8 times, you stood right there and called my son as he was laying there drowning, not after asking him for help or calling 911 or trying to give him CPR. You called the Manchester scum. And you don't think that you deserve the rest of your life in jail? Yes, you do. You should. But I'm asking you to the honor to give him the max, because I'll make a deal with John. You could have 30 years out of jail if I could have my son back. Is that possible, John? Can I have my little boy back? No. I got a granddaughter that is not going to be able to see her daddy walk her down the aisle. She's not going to have a father-daughter dance. My son Brendan will have to stand up in that place and be there, and we will all be there. But John, I forgive you. I forgive you, because I will not have you consume my life. I do not. I know alcohol played a big part that night, and I want to do your anger too. I feel bad because if the tables were turned and your mom was standing there, I would be bawling because I'd be in so much shame of what my son did. That's why my son was liked by everyone. He would rather a friend, if they decided to fight at a club, they would turn around and go, okay, you lost. Jake, you buy the next drink. That's what he was about. No, not knowing that a kid who was 200 pounds lighter than you put 8 bullets in him because you couldn't take them. You're that much of a wimp. You're going to big boy prison now, Pete. Wait till you see what happens there. This is real time now. And I know you have some regret. I know you do. And that's the only way I can forgive you. As I said, if I could look you in the face and see that you actually did not mean what you did that night, then I would forgive you. And yes, I do. I do forgive you. Just take this time. Learn from your mistakes. And I'm sure your family's going through it too. Thank you. Oh, and by the way, this is my son, John. John, look at my son. That's where I get to look at my boy.
Your Honor, Timmy's daughter's grandmother.
To John's family, I am truly very sorry for all of the heartache you are going through. 2 young boys lives ruined because of one senseless mistake. John, I know what you did must have been an impulsive act, but you took away a kind and gentle person. I am sorry you made such a poor choice at such a young age, but you killed an amazing father to a wonderful little girl. Timothy documented every single thing this beautiful baby did from the day she was born. He videotaped everything from taking her first steps to learning how to drink from a water fountain. Timothy only wanted a family life. Arabella was his world. Even though he and Kiara weren't together at the time, Timothy was positive that in the end they would be a little family. That's all he ever wanted. Timothy was very spiritual and a great motivator. He taught Bella to say grace before dinner, to be thankful to God, and would be inspirational to my other grandchildren who looked up to him as a mentor. These 2 grandchildren are now on antidepressants and attend a grief counseling program designed for children. The freshman has been failing school ever since. Out of the blue the other day, Arabella started meditating, something Timothy did frequently, and something he was teaching my grandson to do to ease his mind. The person I feel most sorry for is Arabella. She lost her father, her daddy, her dada, the one man who would love her more than anyone else in the world, the one who she could always turn to but no longer can. I have 2 children, 8 grandchildren, and 1 great-grandchild. Timothy became part of our lives for 6 years and was like my grandson, my 9th. He always called me Grandma and always appreciated everything I did for him. He wrote me little notes of thanks all of the time. The last one said, "I just want to thank you for everything you do for me and especially Bella. I'm so thankful to have you in my life. I love you, Grandma, Timothy." I always think, am I going to go through life being lucky enough with nothing happening to my children? I was not. I have lost a lot of people very close to me, but Timothy has made the biggest impact. I cry at just the mention of his name, so senseless. John DeLee, you took away a beautiful ray of light. At least you're alive. Timothy is not. There is light at the end of your tunnel. Our light has gone out. We love you, Timothy, and miss you every single minute of every single day. Thank you.
Your Honor, next is Kiara McKenzie. This is Arabella's mother.
Yeah, I might need him. I'm not gonna lie. Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Kiara McKenzie. I am Timothy's former partner of 5 years and mother of Arabella Pouliot. I want to start on that cold January morning. I was sleeping. My phone started going off. Tons of missed messages and missed calls. When I came to, I finally understood the words I'm reading. Timothy's been shot. Instinct kicked in, and I finally comprehend the words I'm reading. Everyone at the hospitals said no one under that name had been admitted. With nowhere to turn, I called the police station, praying. The only words spoken to me were me. Do you have any information regarding a shooting at the Goat in Timothy Pouliot? Receiver, are you able to meet right now or come to the station? Me, I'm on my way right now. On my way, I had passed the Goat.
not knowing the news I would be told not even 20 minutes later. The world stopped. Emotion hit like a tsunami. And within hours of dawn, multiple families were shattered. As quickly as it happened, having to plan happened quicker. I vividly remember we had all arrived at the funeral home to start coordinating and making final decisions. Fear set in faster than any set of grief and peace could. We were all receiving death threats from anonymous users online, having to scurry in for our safety and sending Arabella away safely. Trying to make the toughest decisions in my life with an unsettling sense of insecurity, hoping nothing would happen to Arabella, my family, and Timothy's family. In the beginning, I was advised to write down these small, hard moments I would relay in this statement. I cannot tell you how an unspoken, loud, happy, an outgoing person like me became numb, empty, and angry and alone. I was speechless for the first time in my life. The first few months were foggy, hard for me to look back on. I lost myself to a dark place, resulting in emptiness and burnt bridges. One of my never-ending thoughts will always be why. I do not have that answer truly, and may never know. I've asked this question a number before. I've suffered from 8 important people in my family past in the last 15 years. Death is not foreign to me. I face death in the face of my own loved ones. Every one is difficult, but this one is deeper. Not understanding eats you from the inside out, alive. After a while, I was here on Earth, but not in reality. I found myself going to the Go in Soho, finding the spot, and I'd lay on the ground and try to understand, what did he last see, hear, think? I remember going out of town for my birthday that March because I felt consumed by my emotions and environment. I remember letting go of Timothy's 21st birthday balloons in April and pouring him a drink. The worst memory is setting up a chair for Arabella's 3rd birthday in May and putting a sweatshirt, sweatpants over the chair, his shoes at the feet, and balloons tied to the back, just so he could be there at his daughter's birthday. This isn't all about me, either. I speak on behalf of our daughter. She adored him. Many people told me in the beginning she's too young, she will forget. Or another, she is too young, she won't remember. To this day, she still tells me she loves and misses her daddy or dada. Just goes to show how strong a bond can be, and no little the person's age can that just be forgotten. Timothy was a loving, energetic, and fun dad. He wanted to give Arabella a world kids dream of. With his short time on earth, she did get to experience those brief, pure moments that only a child and a parent can bond over. Core memories. He made these in photos, videos, and reels he took, recording them at the park playing, a field, learning sports, and running around. Timothy installed floors. When we got an apartment, he installed a pink carpet just for her princess room. He constantly would talk about her and everything he wanted them to do. Because he recorded many moments as a proud father, he made an Instagram to show friends and family how smart and beautiful she was, posting her growth and development. Timothy started making motivational, fitness, and lifestyle videos on social media. He was inspiring a network of people in many different areas of life. Parents, old friends, and new ones were now invested in learning, absorbing his stories. When the news spread, many in the community were affected deeply. Timothy was spreading inspiration and hope in our young adult community. I had many friends and strangers showing me the inspirational and thoughtful messages he would send them. Some across country. He would check on a lot of his friends daily. In the previous week, before the incident, a mutual friend of Timothy and I came to me and told me Timothy was talking about Arabella on his night off. Timothy came to me and told me Timothy was at the same bar and would not stop talking about Arabella on his night off. He was a devoted father, and I thank him deeply for stepping up to the plate through all the tough times and putting Arabella first. I also want to thank a courageous young woman, Sarah Buttersworth, for sharing the last moments of Timothy's life with him. I remember praying he wasn't alone when this tragedy struck, and an angel was near. But as much as I'm grateful, I realize this is something traumatic for not only those involved, but for anybody that was nearby. The impact on the onlookers, the video that spiraled like wildfire, covering social medias internet-wide. This caused a devastation for our families, knowing sentimental, sensitive footage was at anyone's grasp. As an elementary and/or middle school kid, you and your friends may find it funny to search your name on Google. maybe a friend's name or family. For my daughter, it will not be that. The first and most chilling for a mother is unionleader.com states, 2-year-old daughter of Manchester murder victim. In quotations, I want my daddy. My daughter's words. The second from Patch reads, family devastated and seeking answers after senseless shooting. A third from Yahoo News repeats the first article. And the last, her father's obituary. There are things, as a mother, you cannot provide, like a father. I will not be able to fill that void or satisfy that longing. Unfortunately, I am missing a page. Am I able to verbally continue what I remember? Anything over there? That's what I figured. Oh, you have it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay. When I have never felt a deeper sadness to not be able to provide her with answers. Answers I don't have myself. I wanted to hate you, John. I wanted you to experience the unthinkable. But every time I was brought back, I would think about my daughter and how at a young age I became a mother. And it's a feeling unlike any other. Just like my daughter, you are a son. I see you, although we're the same age, in a way your mother sees you. I knew I had two choices within myself: to love or to hate. I choose not to hate you, John. I choose to be compassionate for myself. I will forever be missing a selfless, loving soul. My daughter's other half taken in a flash. I wish peace on our families, Timothy's soul, and even you, John. I pray for forgiveness from you one day. But ultimately, I choose to let the evidence speak loud and clear for itself. I choose to let God decide. I choose to pray for justice. I hope my words resonate with everyone listening, and we all have peace and love throughout what's next to come. My name is Kiara Mackenzie. Thank you for your time.
Our next is Tammy Greenoff, who is a close family friend.
Good afternoon. My name is Tammy Greenoff. On January 28th, two lives 2 lives and 2 families changed on your choices that you made that day. I don't know what or why you did what you did. I'm sorry.
Take your time.
I don't know why, or I don't know what was going on with you that day and why you had to carry a gun with you. I looked at your pictures on your Facebook, and it showed that you were a football player, and it looked like you had a lot of things going good for you. It seemed like you had a good life. You had a great things in your life that I saw. Sorry. In your life, you could have went to college. You could have married, had kids. You might have that chance when you get out, if you get out. But that day you changed 2 families, yours and Timmy's. Timmy had a job, a child, a future that was bright, and he was a mentor to young generations. His smile was like a sun, and if you were down, he would brighten your day, brighten you up. I had more, but as people spoke previously, if I can pick out each little messages from them, that's how I feel. Timmy was like a son to me. I watched him grow up. He brought my daughter to prom. I got pictures of him. And that day when my daughter and him were going to the prom, I said, Timmy, come over here. I need a picture with you. And I have that picture on my phone. That's the only picture I have of him and me together. You took a good person for something horrendous that night that you did. Like everybody said, guns and alcohol don't mix. And I don't know why you would have a gun in a bar. I do agree. I do forgive you, John. I'm a Catholic. I hated you at the beginning. And hate is a harsh word. I feel bad for your family. I don't understand. But your family can see you. We can't see Timmy. Timmy is gone. Your family can hear your voice, share memories. We can't share anything. That little girl is growing up without a father. No first dance with father-daughter dance. And like everybody said, weddings. A father's supposed to walk their daughter down the aisle. That little girl won't have a father. But she does have a loving family that will help her and support her on that day and many days. John, I do forgive you. I don't hate you, but I wish you had I wish you could have used your head and think before you reacted on that night. You changed many, many lives that night. Not only, like I said, not only for Timmy's, but yours and your family. They could come and visit you. But I have that picture to visit my Timmy. When I want to think about him. And I do think about him all the time. Thank you.
Your Honor, next is Isla Baramovich.
My name's Courtney. I'm an advocate with the AG's office speaking on behalf. After witnessing the shooting, my emotional well-being has been severely impacted, and I am struggling to cope with the trauma and fear that has consumed me. Witnessing what happened back in January of 2023 has had an impact on me both physically and mentally. The physical effects of the traumatic event manifest through feelings of muscle tension and numbness. Mentally, I have been scarred by the thoughts, flashbacks, and difficulty sleeping. The overwhelming sense of fear and helplessness that accompany the experience have left me with a lasting imprint of my overall well-being. I am still seeking understanding, support, and healing as I navigate through the effects on my mental health.
And lastly, Your Honor, a close family friend, Michelle Griffin.
Timmy and my son Anthony met in the 6th grade, and Timmy quickly became a member of our family, so much so that to him, I was a second mother. Timmy and Anthony had a bond like brothers, and they were almost inseparable up until shortly after they graduated high school, when Anthony went overseas with the Marines. However, their brotherly bond remained strong, even as they began to navigate different journeys as young adults. To say that Anthony and I are devastated by Timmy's death would be an understatement. An article I've recently read stated that coping with loss challenges the most resilient, and I immediately understood why. The fact of the matter is that so many people's lives never recover from the anguish caused by a loss, especially one as tragic as this. Sitting in the courtroom through the trial, I could feel the intensity of the suffering endured by loved ones. My heart aches for everyone who has been affected, and that includes the DeLeaf family, who in a different way lost someone too. The effects of this tragedy also extend well beyond the people in this courtroom. There is a little girl whom Timmy loved more than anyone. Although she is still too young to fully comprehend that she will grow up without her father, this has certainly affected her and will continue to do so for the rest of her life. I have no doubt that I'm not the only person in this room who had hopes this was all just a nightmare from which we would wake up to find our loved ones safe and at home, or who even now wishes we could go back in time and alter what happened that fateful night. Sadly, there are instances when the consequences of our actions, our choices, are irreversible. Timmy is no longer with us, and that has been our new reality. Even though we in some way struggle every day with this new reality, Anthony and I are committed to continuously finding positive, healthy ways to commemorate Timmy's memory. John, please know that Timmy wasn't Manchester scum. He was so much more and was loved by so many people. He was funny and inspirational. He wasn't perfect, no one is, but he was a good person and had a beautiful heart and soul. He put a great deal of effort into trying to achieve his goals for both himself and his daughter. He had so many dreams and aspirations, as seen here through his vision board. In addition to working towards financial independence, marriage, a family, he also desired a home, to travel, and to break generational curses. I often look at his vision board, aware that if he were still living today, he could have achieved many of these dreams and aspirations. However, it also quickly brings to mind the haunting fragility of life. Like with all of us, life wasn't always easy for Timmy, but he was always thankful for his life. In fact, you will hear the words from Timmy himself. Timmy would frequently leave messages for Anthony when Anthony was not available to take a call. This is a message that Timmy left 2 or 3 weeks prior to his death.
It's on my phone. I'm going to put it close.
Hey, bro. You know, I gotta take everything I learned for these past years of positive thinking, building that bulletproof mindset, and I just gotta apply it now for times like this, bro. I can't let myself fall back. I can't let myself, fall into those habits again of just, not taking care of myself. And now that I have a daughter, bro, I just gotta keep moving forward, bro. And I really appreciate you guys, and I appreciate everybody in my life that, really cares about me, and that's really showed me that through actions that they care, And I'm just so thankful that I have God in my life and that I'm blessed with everything I have, bro. It could be totally worse, and yeah, I'm still here. I have money, I have food, I have a shelter, I have a beautiful daughter, and I have wonderful friends, bro. So, that's what I'm holding on to, and I'm just gonna keep pushing forward.
Thank you.
That's the end of the state's presentation, right?
Good afternoon, Your Honor. The sentencing in a murder case, I think, is always all murder. Here for judgment. Error. A number of but the error is still his, and Your Honor has to determine what is a sentence that is sufficient but not greater than necessary, not to correct that error because we can't, but to ensure that he's properly punished, to ensure deterrence, both specific and general, and to ensure rehabilitation. I would submit that the sentence that has been requested by the defense is sufficient but not greater than necessary to meet those aims. The state has characterized that as a request for a manslaughter sentence. I don't think that's necessarily accurate. The state is looking for a sentence that is the maximum that essentially Your Honor can give in a murder case, but the murder statute provides for lesser sentences. This would be the maximum sentence that could possibly be imposed in a manslaughter case, but that doesn't make it in and of itself a manslaughter sentence. It's a substantial sentence. The minimum sentence that's being requested by the defendant would be 15 years and the maximum 30. Were he to do the max, we're talking about getting out in his 50s. Otherwise, we're still talking about him getting out well into his 30s. That's the kind of time frame. It's an extraordinary period of time, and it certainly cannot compare to, obviously, to the loss that the Pouliot family has. They don't ever have their son back. But we're talking about all of Mr. Dooley's basically central forming years of early adulthood will all be gone under, whether it's the state sentence or the defendant sentence that we're talking about. And those are years that hopefully he will be able to use so that he's able to have his brain in a position that it's not making decisions like that. We don't typically have these kinds of errors being errors in judgment being made by people in their 30s, 40s, and 50s. And it's not youth alone. It's not alcohol alone. It's not peer pressure alone. It's all of those things that coalesced in this case. I just want to briefly touch on the state's requested aggravating factor of a lack of remorse. Your Honor has had a chance to read Mr. Dooley's statement. Mr. Dooley doesn't have an extensive education. He has a high school education. And in my dealings with him, he doesn't use a lot of words. He's not extremely communicative. But he really worked hard on the few words that he did provide to the court. He spent a lot of time, even though we're talking about just that one paragraph, he spent a lot of time on it. As to the incident that Your Honor watched the video, it's not lost on me that occurred approximately within 12 hours of his learning of the state sentencing recommendation in this case. And he's a little bit older than he was at the time of the homicide in this case, of the murder in this case. But he's still a pretty young man and under a great deal of stress. The other thing I would note about the incident in the jail is I know Your Honor has had a chance to watch the video, but the state did provide some update to defense counsel during the day. The officer who had spoken to the Manchester police detective that is quoted in the state's addendum to the sentencing memo did make clear that it was basically it was an error to have described Mr. Dooley as the primary aggressor, and that it appeared to be more of a mutual combat situation. And having read some of the police reports or investigative reports provided by the state, I would also point out that the other person that was involved in the fight essentially took responsibility for having began the altercation. Quote, he said, "I took an extra tray, so I showed him what's up," end quote. And that's the statement of the other person that was involved in that incident in the jail. I don't want to belabor that. I just point out that I think that's, again, an incident where we're talking about a massive amount of stress, and clearly Mr. Dooley does not handle stress very well. But what he does have is the support and in a number of ways of a wide range of family members and friends who are going to be there as a support system whenever he is able to get out of jail, if he's ever able to get out of jail. And that kind of support system is also important because whenever Mr. DeLee is able to get out of prison, it's going to be important that he have all the support necessary so that he's able to be a law-abiding citizen once he gets out of the prison. And he has a lot of that support system there. I know, if I could have just a moment, I believe Mr. DeLee has a few words and just a very few, but they're just in supplement to his letter. If I could just have one moment. If Mr. DeLee could address the board.
Of course.
Your Honor, I just want to say I'm sorry.
Yeah, you don't, Mr. Lee, I don't mean to interrupt you. You don't have to bend over. It'll
I
pick
just
up.
want to say I'm sorry to Timmy's family and the court and my family too.
And with that, Your Honor, I have nothing further.
Did you have any rebuttal or response?
No, I was
Can
going to say no, Your Honor.
Yeah, can I just see counsel briefly at the bench? I explain. So it's my practice to explain the sentence before I tell you the terms and explain the reasoning that I went through in reaching my decision. So there's absolutely no doubt in this case that a terrible tragedy happened on January 28th in which the lives of two families have been changed forever, and I can't possibly articulate that in any more compelling way than the statements we heard here today from Timmy's family and the statements that your family and friends and support provided to the court about what your actions did on that fatal day. And I agree, at least in part, with the defense's explanation. Well, let me back up 1 second. One thing I took away from the remarks here today is the repeated question about why. Why did this have to happen? And I don't think anyone will ever know that for sure, but I think I have some insights into having watched this trial and having thought about this case a lot that explain what happened here and why this happened. And I agree in part with Attorney Faulkner's explanation that Timmy's murder was the result of a fatal combination of youth and alcohol, and of course that's an important consideration. But I think that's only part of the story, and I don't actually even think that's the biggest part of the story or explanation for what happened here. What happened in this case is that Timothy Pouliot wouldn't back down when he was confronted by a bully, namely you. He had the audacity to stand up to a man who was literally more than twice his size and who, because of his size, was used to getting his way. And he had the gall to talk to your ex-girlfriend, and he had the gall not to back away when you confronted him the first time in that bar. And when he and his friends went back over to your ex-girlfriend and started bragging to them, that was too much for you. And that's when the physical confrontation began to escalate. And when Timmy's friend hit you, you flew into a rage. There was no doubt you were spoiling for a fight, and you were not going to let these three guys get the better of you. And just like a bully, you hid behind a gun. And just like a bully, you put an end to Timmy's life by putting 8 rounds into him to show people that no one was going to stand up to John DeLee and live to tell that tale. And if I had any doubt about your acts being motivated by that bullying, all of that doubt was erased by your conduct just 2 days ago at the jail. What I saw on that video is absolutely the acts of a bully. Someone stood up to you. Someone had the audacity to take your breakfast, a shrimp, a small guy who could live on snacks. And no one was going to stand up to John DeLee. And he got what he had coming to him, and you beat the heck out of that guy. And every school kid knows that bullies need to be punished to put an end to bullying. And your conduct deserves harsh punishment, and it deserves a significant sentence, both for specific deterrence, so that you finally get the message that someone is going to stand up to John DeLee and not take it anymore, and general deterrence that this kind of behavior is completely and utterly unacceptable. By all accounts, Timmy Pouliot was a kind-hearted person, and you put an end to that life. Frankly, I don't believe the show of remorse. Certainly your words in the immediate aftermath of this shooting show what you thought of him, that white Manchester trash, or whatever the words you used were. But even the letter you wrote to the court today or yesterday, just recently, show that there's no true remorse here. Not once in that letter do you say, "I'm sorry I killed Timmy." Instead you say, "I'm very sorry for what happened," as if it's the acts of some other person, not your responsibility, that ended his life. And for all of those reasons, the court does not find that the mitigating factors of youth and alcohol outweigh the aggravating factors in this case that warrant a significant sentence. Now, with all that said, I have not adopted the state's recommendation, and I have not adopted the defense's recommendation. I've crafted a sentence here that accomplishes the goals that I've explained in my remarks, but I've also crafted a sentence that's going to give you some opportunity to still have a life in front of you that is more than Timmy Pouliot had. Obviously, he's deceased, who will never have, I should say. And so the sentence I'm imposing in this case on the charge of knowing second-degree murder is that you are sentenced to the New Hampshire State Prison for not more than life, no less than 27 years. You have 406 days of pretrial confinement credit, and there is 150 days added to each year of the minimum portion of the sentence to be prorated for any part of the year. That sentence is stand committed, and it begins immediately. Restitution is not ordered in this case because it has not been requested, and court-appointed counsel fees have been waived. You are, as part of this sentence, though, eligible for earned time credit. So that means that you can have up to, I believe it's 24 months of both the minimum and maximum portion of the sentence reduced for approved programming, dealing with issues, counseling, anger management, and other issues that will help with rehabilitation once you're released. You are required as part of this sentence to participate meaningfully in all counseling, treatment, and education as required. You're prohibited from having any contact with the Pouliot family, and of course you have to be of good behavior. On the reckless conduct charge, this is, I have to say, obviously not as nearly close as serious, but it is not an insignificant conviction either. And I think we heard today input on that point, and the number of people outside that bar, it's a miracle no one else was hurt in this incident. So the sentence I'm imposing reflects that as well, and that you are sentenced to the state prison for not more than 6 years, no less than 3 years. The sentences also stand committed and will be served consecutive to the sentence I just imposed. As with the last sentence, court-appointed counsel fees are waived. The conditions, though, of this sentence are that if you have no if you commit no crimes, state or federal crimes, or have any major disciplinary infractions at the prison or other place of employment for a period of 15 years, starting today, for 15 years, then this sentence, both the minimum and maximum, will be suspended in its entirety. So this is designed to give you the incentive to be of good behavior, to not do what you just did 2 days ago at the jail, and to obviously not have any other major disciplinary infractions. The other conditions, so if this sentence is suspended, it would be suspended for a period of 10 years from the date of so you will have to file an application to demonstrate to the court that you've complied with this condition. If the court grants that, then it will be suspended for a period of 10 years from the date it is granted. And if it's suspended, the conditions were, again, meaningful participation in counseling, treatment, and education required by parole, no contact with the Pouliot family, and, of course, good behavior. Do you have any questions about the terms of the sentences? Right. The clerk will read to you your notice of your right to seek sentence review.
John DeLay, you are hereby notified that you have the right to apply for the review of the state prison sentence imposed on you today, March 8th, 2024. The application may be filed within 30 days after the date of the sentence, but not thereafter except for good cause.
All right, so there it is. John DeLee sentenced to 27 years to life, but I like this. This judge has done something I've never seen done before, where he added a condition that if he goes for 15 years with no disciplinary infractions and he participates in counseling services and does things to basically improve himself, he can petition the court. And if he meets all of those conditions, so the court will not be, this judge has basically said if he meets those conditions, the only thing the court will be determining is did he meet those conditions, and he gets out in 15 years. So, wow, so he gave him a 15-year sentence, but he did it creatively, where he said you're not going to be guaranteed a minimum of 15 years. You've got to be compliant. You can't do the things you just did 2 days ago. Now, for those of you who didn't follow this case from fruition, I kind of disagree with the judge. Watch my video. I put it in the chat there, a link, but you can go back. It's one of my earlier videos, and I break it down. I don't technically agree completely, but I do think he was angry. He was mad, but the thing is when he got hit, when he got punched, he didn't know right away who was doing what to him. You got to watch the video. It's too much for me to get into now. Maybe we'll watch the video together tonight. But a couple questions came through there while we were watching the sentencing hearing. One, I don't know if you're still with us or not. Let's see here, a DG, but one question was, I got a question. Why doesn't the defense cross-examine any witnesses in the Crumbley case? The reason being, if you're watching this or rewatching this, I'm going to answer this question. The reason for that is because a lot of the witnesses so far that have come on, especially the ones that are just dealing with the shooting itself, there isn't anything to cross-examine them about. They're being brought on solely because the state wants the jury to understand the gravity of the offense that was committed by Ethan Crumbley. Essentially, they want this jury juiced up and emotional so that they don't use reason. But that's why. So the defense isn't trying to stick around with this. There really isn't anything to cross-examine because there really isn't anything relevant to the case against James Crumbley. Now, she absolutely jumped on she cross-examined the cell phone analyst very well. She cross-examined the lead detective. But those were really the only two that really brought. She cross-examined a little bit the individual that bought the gun, that he bought the gun from. I mean, she's cross-examining the witnesses that matter, but there's also a lot of witnesses that don't really bring anything in except for talking about what Ethan Crumbley did, because the judge is allowing it. And even though they've stipulated it, even though they've already said, we stipulate how terrible this was, we stipulated how they got shot, who got shot, all that stuff, state still wants to bring it in. They still want to put that in front of the jury and upset them. So that's why that's going on there. Let's see here. Any other questions? And case is over for the day. They ended early. They ran out of witnesses. But I think we're going to conclude. Like I said, I'm very impressed with that sentence. That judge, he struck me as a very fair judge. I liked him during the trial. I think he did a heck of a job. And that's the type of judges I like. He actually put a sentence through that gives John DeLee the incentive. And this is, he literally, in my opinion, put forth just exactly how I think the justice system should work: incentivizing good behavior, incentivizing improving yourself, giving the opportunity that if you meet certain criteria, you can get out earlier and re-enter society and start giving back and making a difference. So very, 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 very good sentence by this judge. I am very, very impressed. But anyways, that's where we're going to leave it, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the trial today. I think it was a good day for the defense. We're going to see about doing a 10 o'clock, hopefully maybe doing a 10 o'clock Justice Watch live tonight. So be on the lookout. I'll put out an announcement once I hammer that out. And we were going to watch this sentencing hearing, but we decided to jump in and watch it semi-live. So that's out of the way. So we'll probably be talking about the Crumbley case today. I know there's a lot of questions about Tyrone Tucker. Again, he has a hearing on Monday. So we're checking out. We'll talk. There's several other things. There's the jury verdict for the mom out in Tennessee that just went down. And I probably already know now. We'll watch that in Justice Watch Live. She was found guilty, but we'll go ahead and watch it, even if we didn't cover it. Maybe do a rundown of the closing arguments. I like to do that because they happened today. The jury only deliberated for 2 hours. Then there's the state trooper trial. I haven't really got into that, but there's the state trooper trial that is similar to the Drew Peterson trial, where a woman was found in a bathtub, deceased, and he's on trial for that. So lots of things to talk about, lots of things to get into, and of course, lots of things still to talk about on the Crumbley case, and get into it, all that. So we'll go from there. Anyways, with that said, guys, I appreciate you watching, and let justice prevail, and I'll talk to you soon.